Pete stares down at a week's dirty dishes and rancid water, looks out the window and thinks, "Sod this, I'm going to the park." Over the park the sky is cloudless. The sun's bristling with rays and there's a light breeze too. A group of young Australians in shorts are throwing a frisbee. Sarah is pushing her boy, Travis. He's old enough now to sit in a pushchair. "Hi Sarah," says Pete. "What's happening?" "Hi Pete, yeah, making the most of the weather in between shifts." Sarah works part-time as a barista in a local outpost of corporate imperialism, but she doesn't enjoy it much. She's training herself to be a novelist. She looks at the ducks on the pond and wonders why the water is so murky, but it is a lovely shade of olive green. She says "see you" to Pete and continues pushing Travis along the path, past the plots of roses arranged on the ground like they're in baskets. She's thinking about what she might get out of the freezer for tea. Several dogs skulk up to them, led by curious noses, all well behaved. Their human guardian bounds up jovially behind them. "Lovely day, isn't it?" he says, in his bluff impersonation of a home counties officer type. Pompous perhaps, but he's civilized at least. "Yes," Sarah replies. "Isn't it beautiful?" She stops the pram ready for a brief conversation with the stranger, but the mock colonel is already being marshalled away by the pack. "Rowdy bunch of fellows," he thinks to himself. "Very pretty girl, though. See a lot of them in the park when the sun comes out. I wonder if she's got a man to go with that baby. You can't assume too much these days." He passes the cafe. A twinge of inspiration, or an undisciplined regression to childhood, possesses him. With one eye watching his mongrel squadron, he strolls up to the kiosk for an ice cream. They do the soft stuff here. "Do you have any strawberry sauce for it, or nuts?" he asks the lady in the lab coat and plastic Panama hat as he takes his mango soft scoop cone from her. She replies, "No, my darling, they don't budget for that here," and she laughs warmly. "Oh well, thank you anyway," the colonel responds. Doris thinks, "I hope he's happy with just the ice cream, praise the Lord." But in her deep Jamaican voice she says to him, "Yes, it's a lovely day for it." If she could hear herself talk, she might think she was singing the word. "That's what people don't pick up, the little bits of happiness like an ice cream," Doris ruminates. "They're too busy trying to think of reasons to be unhappy." Doris doesn't mind her job selling ice cream, especially to the kids. The ones that are in a good mood, that is. And they do some really exciting flavours for the adults. Cafe creme with amaretto is her favourite. But today on her break she'll have mint choc chip. Any seconds now. She rechecks her watch. On cue, Roy, the man, comes to relieve her for a few minutes' calorie absorption. Roy's the boss of the cafe, and of this he has no doubt. Doris thinks he's got something stuck somewhere in him that needs pulling out badly, poor man. Trying to be so precise with everything, if that's what food is all about. Doris guesses that his pernicketiness is his way of trying to prove to himself that he's in control. He has curly red hair, is tall and thin, but she isn't sure if that's connected with what he's trying to prove. Roy smiles to Doris like he's calculating the cost and value of each muscle movement and says, "Time for goodies, Doris." He likes to rib her about her fondness for what she sells for him. A bit of light-hearted banter between management and crew is always good for morale. She hands her ice cream coat to him, and he watches with the condescension he doesn't even know he possesses as she helps herself to her customary morning reward. Mint choc chip today. I wonder what that means, Roy thinks. She's already putting on some major ice cream compartments round her waist. As Doris disappears, Roy gazes out with crossed arms at the potential punters. Maybe if they expand their range they can attract more business, but that will require capital outlay. A bit of a gamble with the weather. A 5-year-old girl runs up unself-consciously. Then, in a rush of consciousness of the strangeness of her surroundings and the looming man, she hesitantly puts a pound coin on the counter. Roy watches and waits for her order, but she says nothing. The girl has begun looking round nervously for her mother. Roy thinks quickly. This'll be a chance for me to practice my customer service skills. So before she has an opportunity to start crying, he asks her, "And what would you like, young lady? An ice cream or a lollipop?" "Lorry," says the girl, who returns an expectant stare. "Orange or strawberry?" "Strawberry." He excavates the purchase from the freezer and gives it to the girl, who runs away before he can give her the change. "It's only 10p anyway. I'll leave it out for a couple of minutes, and if the mother doesn't come back and get it, I'll keep it as a tip." The little girl meets her mother along the path, but in her hurry she's already accidentally donated the top half of her lolly to the pigeons. She alternates between crying, licking the remainder, and pleading sympathy with sad puppy eyes. "Siobhan, look what you've done." "Oh dear, never mind," her mother responds with the desired tone, hoping to downplay the tragedy, and patting Siobhan around the mouth with a tissue. Rachel decides to change the subject with the raising of her vocal pitch. "What do you think? Shall we go and play on the swings? Perhaps there'll be some children there, you know. Remember yesterday we met Kirsten, Mandy and Alan? Fancy all of us being in the park at the same time." Rachel likes to talk to Kirsten's mother, Anne. They've had some frighteningly similar experiences. It's a sign of the times, but negative equity and deserting husbands are becoming quite a trendy couple. In the playground, Kirsten is on a swing. Anne oversees Kirsten from a wooden table, smoking a guilty cigarette. Her smile is unavoidably bittersweet and careworn when she sees Rachel approach. They know each other quite well, Anne believes. Rachel says, "Siobhan was sad because she dropped some of her lolly, weren't you, darling? But we both agreed it would be nice to go to the playground and meet our friends." Siobhan is already on her way to the swing and to wanting to be pushed, so Anne nods across. "Go and push her. I'll be with you as soon as I finish this," jiggling the cigarette. As Anne watches Kirsten and Siobhan, she tries to remember that far back into her own childhood. "It's funny what you try to cling to when things are going wrong, isn't it?" she thinks. But on with the show, I suppose. She stubs the hilt of her cigarette out and goes up to push Kirsten and talk to Rachel. She says to Rachel, "Things are getting really complicated. It's like suddenly I've got to start making all these major decisions again." Rachel nods. "I know, but I think you'll be fine." Anne meditates momentarily on Rachel's supportiveness, especially when things aren't going that well for her either. It's good to have friends like this, especially at times like these, with ex-husbands like that. Kirsten says, "Cute doggy, mummy," and jumps off the swing to pet the sleek white husky that's just appeared from behind a tree. A female human follows in its wake. "Don't worry," says the woman, looking at Anne. "She's very friendly. But you should still remember that all dogs are descended from wolves." "Did you know that?" she asks Kirsten. "He's not a wolf any more, is he?" Kirsten responds, worried, withdrawing her hand. "No, sweetheart, he's not. Not any more." "Just like me," says a man with a white goatee and an evident taste in walking canes and dapper waistcoats, appearing from behind the elegant dog owner. "Believe me, I'm as tame as they come." And he winks semi-surreptitiously at the clever little girl as he bends down to stroke the patient dog. The couple and their fashion accessory walk on down the boulevard of glistening lime green trees. The man glances up to see a colony of green parrots alight on an oak. "Interesting, isn't it," he says to his companion, "how even the natural world is changing all the time. Did you see that?" The woman looks up at the tree, but can't see the birds, although she can hear their whistling squeaks well enough. As she's looking up, the next of the frequent helicopters buzzes over. The helicopters are brought up in frequency by the girls in the bikinis, no doubt, Professor thinks, taking the opportunity to look around him while Marietta's head is in the tree with the birds. She's up there, and I'm studying the bird life on the ground," he ponders. A voice interrupts his reverie. "Ah, coming back down to earth today, Professor, I see." The words come from Dr. Zhao, Emeritus Professor of Taoist Philosophy at Beijing University, in London on a year's training, as he likes to call the loose network of ethics seminars he attends here and there. "Zhao, old boy, how splendid to see you. Jogging again, I see." The Professor responds. They had indeed first met over at the stone polo bench, when Zhao had asked the Professor and Marietta to look after his jacket as he tied himself in a wrap round the lake. A big pond, really, and they had got into conversation. The Professor likes to talk to Zhao. Professor Svensson is also on sabbatical as an astronomer in Columbia, in great contrast to the sort of obsolescent scholasticism he thinks of Zhao as pursuing. He'll allow that they're both men of philosophy, although their outlooks on life seem to converge only beyond infinity. In his scant spare time, Professor Svensson is writing a novel about the end of the universe. It's called Crunch, while Zhao is unscientifically and therefore unreasonably committed to the view that the world will continue forever in one form or another. And he's quite vocal about that idea too. Svensson has not yet decided which outlook he thinks bleakest, but he has his suspicions that whatever else turns out to be the case, when things get dark for the cosmos, they'll get really dark. This pessimism does not get him through the night, so he's become addicted to the vanity of trying to possess beautiful young ladies, but he knows even Marietta will go. Marietta turns and smiles at Zhao, saying, "Good afternoon, Doctor. Doesn't nature sometimes give us wonderful treats for our senses, don't you think?" Elongating the wonderful while flinging an arm out to point around the park. "Yes, I too think it's a lovely day, Marietta," Zhao replies. "The way the grass sparkles in the sunlight is exquisite." Her reply is drowned out by another set of blades chopping up the sky. This chopper is low enough to gesticulate at. "I think Britain has just signed a £1 billion deal to supply China with military and civilian helicopters," Zhao continues when the body of the noise has passed, turning his gaze from air to ground. "This is surely one of the benefits of trade, is it not?" He ribs the Professor, knowing the Professor to be the most jingoistic of liberals. Dr. Zhao, in economic reality, liberalism and the free market are quite symbiotic, the Professor once again tries to assert. He's quite exasperated by this otherwise intelligent man's stupidity over this issue. In creating free markets, you create freedom for the individual to subsist according to his wants. You are also creating the environment for the expression of the freedom of choice, he clarifies. "Yes, very good market rhetoric, Professor," agrees Zhao, grinning deliberately, the Professor believes. "Come on, Eric, I don't want you two to start arguing about politics again," urges Marietta. "I'm hungry and it's your turn to cook. Goodbye, Dr. Zhao." "Yes, goodbye," Zhao nods, setting off. They go in opposite directions, as they always do. Zhao shifts his legs into second gear, but not himself into a sweat. He thinks what a great achievement it would be to synthesize the heights of Eastern and Western civilizations. Maybe he could do this by developing a Taoist form of jogging. There could be the cheetah form for sprinting, or the gazelle form, the mountain lion maybe. It may be untraditional to use foreign animals as the forms, but we're all global now. There's a tinny rattle along the path ahead, but before he can identify the source of the noise, suddenly Zhao proves the actually Chinese theory of gravity, as he unexpectedly finds himself tripping slow motion over a remote-controlled miniature plastic imitation of a rally-style VW. Luckily, his hand hits the ground before his head does. A man in his mid-20s runs up to help him up, apologize, and console. "Are you okay?" the young man asks, genuinely concerned, as he helps Zhao to his feet. "Maybe over-concerned," Zhao reflects gruffly as he picks up his glasses. Zhao lost his composure somewhere in the fall. "In future, you may consider playing with your toys off the public path." He just manages not to shout, brushing himself free of dust and creases. The man he's facing is unshaven, but dressed with the middle-class image which Zhao calls an IKEA design sense, clean and minimalist in unpronounced casual whites and greys. This sense of unobtrusive style is apparently part of the middle-class conformity ethic in Britain these days. "Yes, of course, how very stupid of me," Mr. Two-Day Stubble says. "You must think I'm a complete idiot." In response to this indirect question, Zhao just glares at him and walks away, ironing his tracksuit with the palm of his hand and muttering in Mandarin. Idiot, 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 Jim mutters to himself as he also walks away from the scene of the crime. Stupid, stupid, stupid. Then he realizes he's reinforcing a negative image of himself and stops. Don't worry, he thinks, deliberately leading his mind into a more positive perspective. The old guy wasn't seriously hurt, and neither was Bitsy. He taps the thin shell of his car, testing the wheels by flicking the remote. In relief, he sends Bitsy spinning off against the football pitch smooth grass, smack into the back of a teenager lying in the sun smoking a joint. The boy's designer track-suited body jolts with surprise as he turns round with an evil stare. "Oi, watch what you're doing! You're heating me up!" he shouts. "Sorry," Jim says, smiling sheepishly. "Yeah, you better watch it," the teenager responds. "You're lucky we're busy or we'd trash your lawnmower. Like, totally recycled." He turns back to the circle of his school friends and they laugh, because they're in a gang. "Yeah," Jason confirms, shouting over his shoulder at the retreating Jim. "Don't you know this is a public park, not a car park?" This brings whooping and jeering noises and high fives from the other four. Then the space-invaded youth turns back to watch Dembo mash up baccy and weed in his fist. Dembo's the only bloke he knows who can roll a joint single-handed, while using the other to smoke a joint with. He doesn't know if it's a transferable skill in any way, but it's definitely a sick trick. The West London gangsters are blazing in the sun. They don't need no interruptions. None of them can see the difference between legendary and lazy, so they're just sitting in the afternoon and pretending they don't have no homework. Pretending is how you run life, after all, clearly. Each bro has his own stock of punk, so rolls for himself. But they share the Bacardi as they pretend not to stare longingly at the distant women sunbathing. It's not cool. It's the end of summer, and they still single. Should have bought some sounds. Bit of Bob Marley go down well right now, Alex suggests. He's almost got the accent right. "No, bit of Bhangra what we need." So a slow argument ensues, the conclusion finally being that what they need is some R&B with some hot honeys. The Bacardi is passed round with the bottle of Coke. "Man, who bought diet? You know I don't do diet," Jason complains. "Just drink the Bacardi then," answers Ben. "No thanks, that stuff is too raw, blood." Jason takes a swig of the Diet Coke and then the rum, and swishes them together in his mouth. "Rough," he says, forcing himself to swallow the potion. A backpacker appears on the outskirts to mime a light for his cigarette. He could be Spanish or Italian, he has that sort of permanently tanned boyishness. Dembo reaches up his cone. The stranger mimes smoking it. Dembo drawls, "Yeah, bro." So the stranger puffs a couple of times, smiles, nods, lights his rollie with it, hands back the J, and walks off. Giovanni puffs on his roll-up and thinks in Italian, "London is a curious town, it's true. People have to be drunk before they seek to engage you in any sort of social interaction. Where's that attitude from? Is that the Northern Protestant work ethic? Or maybe they're just used to sitting in their little castle homes in the cold and the rain, getting so gloomy with the weather that they really don't like talking to each other." As he walks on past the tennis courts, he grins his best boyish grin at a couple of keeping fit girls, not bad in their white miniskirts. They smile back, then turn away to share a joke about him. "I saw him first," Jerry shouts across the neck to Becky. Becky shouts back, "You can have him. Too smoulderingly Mediterranean for me. I prefer blondes so cool they're Icelandic." "So no luck with Oliver, then?" "It depends what you mean. I gave him the knock-off. I call that a lucky escape." "About time too," Cherry laughs. Tennis balls have accumulated on Becky's side of the net. She retrieves a couple and starts bouncing one against the concrete with her racket. Cherry glances through the wire-link fences round the court, then across the skyline above the trees. Beyond distant office blocks, the first wisps of cloud have started to form. Thwack! Becky launches the projectile with a sudden fury. This catches Cherry by surprise, so in return she reacts with a forced panic shot, which sends the ball straight up over Becky's head and the surrounding fence, out towards the almost empty cricket pitch beyond. An Asian family is walking along the pitch. The patriarch's head is spared the blow by about 3 inches. At the interruption of the missile, he stops talking and walking and peers round accusingly at Cherry. "You could have killed me. You very nearly did kill me," he shouts with a slight anger. "I suppose you're going to want your ball back now." Yes please," Cherry replies. Despite her expectations, the man hoists the ball back over the fence. The interrupted family continue walking, the 2 boys fighting while the mother pushes the baby along. The father says to his boys sternly, "If you don't stop fighting right now, there'll be no internet tonight." "But Baba, Sadiq started it. He won't let me play his Game Boy." "I don't care," the father explains. "I nearly got killed by those 2 lunatic girls. I haven't got time for your nonsense right now." Iftikhar is beginning to lose his temper, despite himself. Mrs. Iftikhar is slightly more conciliatory. She comments over her shoulder back at them, continuing to push on towards the cafe. "Boys, do what your father says. He's only thinking of your own good." "There'll be no ice cream for you either," threatens Iftikhar. At this, Sadiq pushes his brother hard away without retrieving his Game Boy. When their parents' backs are turned, Wahid sticks his tongue out at Sadiq, and the latter returns the salute. They soon reach the oasis of the cafe. After parking the chair, Mrs. Iftikhar sighs to relax as she heads to the counter carrying her girl, to order a chocolate bar for herself, a pot of tea for them both, and some juices for the boys. All 3 of her boys are huddled around an ice cream freezer guarded by a big black woman. Although a lamb is waiting to be cooked at home, Mrs. Iftikhar scans the chalk menu above her head. Her absent mind is brought back to the park and the present with the prompt of the cashier asking her, "Can I help you, please?" Amelia takes the order with patience and a smile, although she's very tired. It's not good to work late nights at the club, then to come here every day with only a few hours sleep. She'll get a better job as soon as she can get a visa. When everything's ready, Amelia takes the tray with the pot and cups outside to the family. The boys are unattractively smearing ice cream across their chins. Amelia merely smiles politely and returns to the counter for her next mother and child combination. This combo is not accompanied by a man, but the woman is too discreetly dressed for Amelia to doubt that she has a nice husband with a nice job, a nice car, and a nice house. She's slightly envious, but not cynical. She wants all these things too. However, it is uncertain so far that London can provide them for her. Her boyfriend also does not have a visa. He works part-time as a bouncer at the club and does casual building work, off and on. She may leave him soon. She smiles at the woman. Sarah only wants iced tea. She doesn't want to feed Travis any junk. It's getting too near his afternoon nap to fill him full of sugar and set him running screaming round the garden. Tears would be guaranteed. Soon she takes her tea and toddler outside and sits down with transforming relief. Now she can be serene for a few moments. Not far away, 4 young men and 2 women are playing frisbee. They must be Australians or New Zealanders, looking as casually tanned and healthy as they do. Like their country has already been through all the natural selection it's ever going to need. Someone's piloting a model boat roughly aligned with the edge of the pond beyond them. Away out across the field, a trio of red kites are synchronized against the breeze. They must be linked together. In the distance, Sarah can see a man sitting in a cart being dragged along the grass by a much larger kite. His tacking skills aren't up to much. Travis is asleep in the shade in his chair. He looks so sweet in his floppy hat. Sarah steeples her fingers against her lips as if in prayer, taking just another second or 2 to wipe her mental inbox clean. Then she gets her notebook and pyro out of her handbag and sips the tea. Sarah doesn't take her laptop into the park anymore, not even when she knows it's going to be busy. But a notebook is good for notes. The phrase she's trying to squeeze out of her forehead is a knot of both diplomatic and semantic delicacy. She stares at the waiting paper, trying to force the right words to come, in the right order. but expecting them not to. A shadow passes over her head with a swoosh. She looks up and behind her, surprised to see Pete standing there, holding a frisbee, then winking at her as he throws it back, to get a distant "Sorry, mate," from one of the bucks. "No worries," Pete responds humorously. Then he turns back to Sarah with raised eyebrows. "I was just sneaking up to surprise you, but I thought I'd heroically save you instead. And you weren't even looking." "Sorry, thanks, I think," Sarah replies automatically, still processing what's just happened. Just how heroic is it to catch a frisbee? "Don't mention it," Pete smiles. Sarah looks at Pete, leaning with his hands placed against the back of the plastic chair. She doesn't invite him to sit down. She's jealous to guard this brief moment of peace during the day, but too polite to let Pete know that. She doesn't like Pete very much anyway. He's pretentious. Pete looks round at all the happy people who've temporarily besieged the cafe's patio, huddled around tables in small tribes, the parasols set at the wrong height to give any shade from the sun. This cafe society is disproportionately heavy with young mothers and children. Pete's instant guess is that Sarah's waiting for a friend to join her for partner winching and nappy brand comparisons, so he says, "Look, I don't want to keep you from whatever you're doing, but it's nice to see you again. Again, you know. But I have to get going." "See you again," she replies, but her eyes are unfocused. "Wish me luck," Pete responds as he heads home. "I've got to go and do the washing up. I've got the debris of a week's culinary experiments waiting for me in the sink." And he turns and heads towards the gate.